very well going into the next part, because when we're looking at the clashes, we've been talking a lot about clashes, but post the clashes, we still have our standings continue forward into part 2, and that's when you start talking about things like playoffs, being able to be in 1 through 6th, really 2 through 6, so you can fight over the mid-season brawl places, but also in 7th and 8th, the Crucible.
The Crucible, obviously, nobody wants to be there unless you want to be back-to-back-to-back champions. But there's probably only one person out there that wants that title.
Hey, B-Kid!
Hey, so we'll see. I mean, yeah, there is a long-term future that you always have to plan for in the way that we are structured here, which is an amazing structure, I think, when you look at it, getting the clash midway through and then obviously playing down the road. So Simplicity, I think they've kind of been the closest, despite being towards the bottom of the standings, have actually been the closest in a lot of their series. It just seems like, look, there's so many things that they do well. Just getting over that hump here against LFM, so far so good, 2-0.
Yeah, one thing I was not expecting as we did Phase 1 last year of the first year of HGC was how hard it can be to get out of Crucible range once you're in it at the end of Part 1. And the reason being is if you get put into that spot, you're facing matchups from the last part. So even if you win a head-to-head versus a team, if they got the head-to-head versus you in Part 1, then all it does is nullify that. And then you're back to your matchups and you're back to the games, the amount of games that you've been able to win. So it can be really difficult to try to break out of those positions. In fact, we watched superstars try to make it out of 6th place position into 5th versus B-Step, or like 5th into 4th, for like the entirety of Part 2. It was just like they just could not. They kept being tied, and because of that darn head-to-head, they just couldn't get there. So this matters a lot, even forward past looking at the clashes.
Well, the 5-4 thing obviously is always cool too, especially when you get to that third spot, because this year, if you win the Western Clash, your region gets to take an extra team to the mid-season brawl. That is awesome, because so there's more stakes on one regional, so you'll have to root for your own team if you lose. But obviously, playing further into that, that's a really cool thing that we're doing this year that I'm really excited about.
That is very awesome, and I am not sure if anyone NA or EU can beat Dignitas, but I have faith. I have faith, definitely. All right, so we're into Game 3 for LFM, and we have got Tyrael versus, or Tyrael and Genji bans. And then Greymane first pick, Draded returns to his Greymane.
He returns to the Greymane, but it opens the door for Hosty to move back over to Hanzo, which he's done so well on up to this point. It's just the opportunity has been there for the Laming plays. So I feel like we might see an early Hanzo pickup, scatter arrow around those shrine points. Really, really strong, but Simplicity maybe are feeling pretty good about themselves, maybe just want to exert more dominance on their opponent. So we might see something a bit more aggressive as opposed to standard.
ETC is still up. For Simplicity, also if they wanted to try to choke out, get the Dahaka, as this seems to be the solo of choice, not only just for Swabs, but especially here on Dragonshire, although we did see a Leoric in the past for them. And there was a Blaze last time they played on Dragonshire too, so there is some differing options for them, but they'll get that Dahaka and Hosty's Hanzo.
Yeah, the Dahaka, I'm glad you brought that up. I think that is a big part for this, is denying it from that of Swabs, but picking it up for you, as you said, it's been a favorite for Urho. But if Simplicity does opt to go for those early camp invades, you can utilize that global. So will Falstad come into play here? Will we see Blaze going to be that other solo laner? You know, Malthael's kind of been there for LFM, but it actually hasn't had too much. Actually, Malthael has not been there, excuse me. They had that weird triple melee setup, yeah, and that wasn't quite, that wasn't quite Swab. So it seems to be a bit more standard when they do go into that solo lane. So the Blaze, is it a high priority enough before second ban, or does Swabs have a few more things that he can kind of run?
I would say if they feel like Simplicity is going to play Dragonshire the exact same way that they did versus Heroes Hearth, they're probably going to want that, because Simplicity pulled a Tempo Storm and played Kerrigan here. They'll get Johanna and Malfurion instead, so they're going to leave that open until they can see, or they feel like they know what they're expecting with Dahaka, and they can leave that open and figure out what they want for the solo lane. This also has a very stable 3 picks for LFM. They have the Greymane, but then also tank and support.
I think what this could potentially set up is the Cassia that you had mentioned when we started this series. You get the blinds from Johanna. She does well in this battleground to basically sustain around those control points. You can also have a bit of control. Johanna can hold against that front line. we've seen them ban out ETC, but Johanna does well potentially against ETC. Tracer being banned out. Tracer, obviously, when you see Malfurion, you have to consider Tracer. That's kind of why the name of the game going forward. But I think that opens the door for the Cassia pick. I think it really does.
Would be really nice, too, if Simplicity ends up going into a lot of melees because of the charged strikes, the ball lightning. You've got Condemn, as well as the blinds to enable the Cassia, as you mentioned. Simplicity are willing to risk it. Willing to risk the Tracer. Instead, they take out the Tychus. Nope, Tracer. They changed back. Just
Last
kidding.
minute. Just kind of playing around with a few things.
LFM could go for a support choke. Could try to take away ETC here.
Well, when we talked about the Cassia, it's almost one of those things you'd almost be okay if they want to go Uther Hanzo. That opens the door because Uther doesn't deal well with the AoE damage, charge strikes. So that was just another layer to that if they do just focus on taking care of the front line or choking out some of the more AoE style heroes like a Lucio.
Yeah, Lucio, that was the first K1 Pro Lucio game that we had on Battlefield of Eternity of all of this part. But I guess it depends. Simplicity is more than willing to leave their support until the very end, the very last pick. They may do that here. They may want to get Uther to go with the Hanzo, but they could just as easily leave that support, wait and see what that is going to be. If it ends up being the Cassia, then adjust from that. So there's the ETC ban from LFM. See where Simplicity goes from here.
I think if it is the Uther, we'll likely see a Cassia. If it's not an Uther, then I think there will be something else to consider, potentially the Li Ming for LFM even. Put T on one of his more comfortable heroes in Li Ming.
Yeah, LFM and Simplicity both have been teams who have been even willing to flex into Lunara. So there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of options now for LFM. I think this is probably their best draft so far. They are very well-rounded. They haven't really allowed Simplicity to choke them out too much in any of the roles. Even for Simplicity, feeling like they needed to ban that Tracer from the Tracer Malfurion keeps them from being able to, or going down the rabbit hole for their solo lanes. And we know Swabs, he plays a lot of different heroes.
I think Zuna's just in comms right now. Look, guys, I got to play Greymane, I got to play Tracer. Please don't put me on Tassadar.
Give me Kerrigan.
Just something. Lucio's Stitches.
Aha! This was played by Heroes Hearth? No, Freedom. Yesterday, the gorge and run away strategy.
Zoom zoom on some roller skates.
Kidnapping with the Lucio and the Stitches. And it saves the Zuna pick.
It does, but I don't know. I mean, Hosty can play a Medivh, but I don't think we've seen Zuna on Hanzo yet. So.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be Medivh, but maybe.
Do you think they might just go mage style to allow Zuna maybe on something like a Jaina
more
to allow
of a
them?
blow up.
Yeah, get them the blow up style, because you're not under a lot of assault when it comes to Johanna. Johanna's not necessarily diving. You've taken away the backline flank from Dahaka.
Leo Li Ming. Swabs Leoric returns. And both of them are, well, Li Ming has teleport. Leoric has his Wraithwalk. You've got the double unstoppable front line of Johanna and Leoric. Malfurion should be back in the back. Greymane has some escape, contingent on positioning. So they have some ways of trying to stop the Stitches.
Yeah, and a lot of it will be post-level 10, right? Stitches grab somebody, you hold your Blast Shield, stun them, you've got Roots, the potential slow from Leoric. There are a lot of ways to deal with that, Wave of Force even, to knock them back, just depending on who's kind of grabbed. You have different tools of dealing with the potential. But as we had mentioned yesterday on many Stitches games that we had spring up on us, all it takes is one. All it takes is one pick off of that Gorge to really get you that true value.
And I love when teams combo Dahaka with that. A lot of times it's not just about the first kill, it's the chaos caused by that Stitches that enables Dahaka to go in, find a juicier target for a drag, and then they can turn that, and they have a Dragon's Arrow to maybe even just stop Johanna and the rest of the team from being able to stop that Stitches. So they have a lot of different ways of trying to set up for kills. They've got the Tassadar to add to that. It does put a lot on Hosty's shoulders as far as damage here to combo off of those Gorges, off those Drags. But as long as they're playing concertedly, They have the setup. It's there.
The setup is there, and the one thing that Tassadar does, it takes away some of that burst damage. Hanzo kind of in between in terms of that true burst damage that you would see from like a Li Ming, from a Jaina, things like that. So you now have to make sure that when you get those, there has to be structures nearby to kind of pull them, get that bonus damage, things like that.
Right.
Archon kinda, right? You just don't quite get it, but it creates a lot of disruption to start the fight. So it's not necessarily the guarantee that we would generally see because of the counters on the other side and because of your lack of burst damage. So again, it only takes one. It's just a matter of how many opportunities will you have to get those.
Yeah, they have to be coordinated with this. Before, when we've seen Simplicity play Stitches, they've played it with like a double support with an Uther Malfurion, and then you have lots of known lockdowns to go along with that. But in this case, you're relying on the boop, maybe a Force Wall. I don't think so. I think we're going to see an Archon to make sure they have the damage. They kind of have the Dragon's Arrow too, and then, of course, the Drag. But they've just got to be concerted here.
See how it plays out. I think King Caffeine might be contemplating the Dampen Magic. Instead, goes with that Slam build. Make sure to get a bit more damage when they do land their combos. That's one of the things, is that when you see the Stitches comps that run like this, at the end of the game, Stitches has a ton of damage. You're like, man, how is he getting so much damage? And that, it does kind of sneak up on you when you go the Slam build.
Yeah, having that cooldown reduction later on too, and the slows that it gives is excellent. Okay.
Gonna need a lot more of that this game.
So that's how this game's gonna be. Great orb. Halves Azuna's health bar. Just saying hello. For Simplicity, they only need this one game to finish out this series. LFM have a long road ahead of them if they're gonna hope for the reverse sweep. It starts here.
It starts here, and I think one thing to consider when we do look at how these matches could potentially play out, Draded, of course, King Caffeine respects Draded's Greymane. But we also have Redemption picked up for Hanzo, which means that's auto attack focused. Johanna blinds plus built-in physical armor, so she won't be under as much pressure on the front line.
Arrow's under some pressure on the front line though, with that Drain of Hope too, taking away that Dahaka health bar. Interesting change up in the laning situation as we see Tassadar head to the top. LFM's going to start in on their Giants in the bottom. Before, in this kind of situation, we've seen them be willing to make an adjustment and go for bruisers first when they feel like they're under a lot of heavy pressure. But in this case, not feeling like that, knowing it takes a while until you even get the serrated arrows from Hanzo, where you can really start to shred through camps and maybe be able to go in and quickly steal them away. They're going to keep their Leoric down in the bottom along with that camp and start to get the damage going versus these towers.
Yeah, give somebody that can easily get away from these areas. Holds his Wraith Walk, but you know, we saw a change up in their approach when they played Tempo Storm LFM last night, and it kind of revolved around them prioritizing their Knights first and then moving around, playing a little bit different. Here, they grabbed their Siege Giants, rotated Leoric down, so I like the fact that they're coming in with a strategy, a macro-style strategy. Then they'll look to push in. The Greymane in the top lane has incredible siege potential, especially under those Knights. So it'll be up to them. King Caffeine, let's see if he looks for... No, they're going to go up and defend. I think they have to.
Yeah, they don't want to take too much structural damage here in the top lane with that Bruiser camp. Simplicity can clear this out quickly, maybe even look to get a pick, as Draded is the prime target for that. Not doing so, not getting that, they just take out the rest of this camp, then maybe rotate down and be able to get their own. But LFM, they have some options at this point, starting to head down to the mid. They can try to push in there with their Greymane.
Now the Greymane just kind of opening things up ever so slightly on these. You can see the shields coming in from Tassadar, obviously trying to maintain whatever health you can out of that. It's a good plays by LFM to try and force the rotations. Controlling the pace sometimes early game kind of forces a different style of thinking. And right now, LFM is controlling the pace of this game through the camps, through the rotations, through their potentially superior clear when it comes to Greymane. They just haven't been able to capitalize and do much with it because Simplicity's been responding well.
Yeah, it also opens up maybe a place where suddenly somebody is vulnerable. Somebody is, oh, just like that. Jeez, Draded. where somebody is vulnerable. You're causing a team to respond to you. They have to send people back and forth. Generally, it's Dragonshire, so you need to have some presence in every single lane. And all of a sudden, there's somebody who can be taken out. And in this case, it seems to work out for Simplicity in that case, as they get that kill on Draded for first blood.
Yeah, it looks like they used Urho's Global to bring him down here on Dahaka. That does leave their top lane open. Generally, early game kills, you know, the experience isn't always as much as, say, a minion wave. So they're going to try and find other ways to kind of compound it. And by doing that, they're going to look at potentially getting this camp. But Hosty took a lot of damage. So they're hesitant right now.
Yeah, there's no serrated arrows here for Simplicity. Instead, Hosty built into the explosive arrows, which is going to help with the wave clear, but it doesn't. And you have it for the monsters too, so you're able to not use it for the mercenary camps in the same way to get that explosion damage, but it helps out in making sure that they have wave clear to keep up with LFM.
Biggie going in, controlling the front line while the rest of his team clears the night camp. Good control so far.
Yeah, although the Draded kill did cost LFM the bruisers in the bottom, the rotations are as such that Taskar had to be laning in the top versus the Leoric, and finally we're seeing Dahaka be able to rotate back up there, but it was a little while where Simplicity are taking some damage in this bottom lane. The clear was pretty good for LFM. They only lost health on one of the towers, and they've been able to just kind of stabilize in this game despite that one kill.
Yeah, they're holding strong for now. You know, they haven't been able to control as much. Simplicity's kind of been in that driver's seat the last minute or so, where LFM was forcing out the rotations, but when they opt for that camp, T just focusing on some structure damage. Figgy, he's going to go to the middle, find Stitches there, unable to get their first DK. Just the one kill so far, though.
Dahaka moves on to the point for Simplicity in the top. Airho taking that back. KLM Pro are going to start to turn their focus to doing the same in the bottom lane, utilizing this giant camp. This is going to maybe force more of a response down, although LFM do as well get their giant camp. This game has, we're just waiting for this game to blow open, to have the opportunity for a team to get a couple kills that gives them that Dragon Knight, and then from there can start to take down some of these forts and make it easier for future ones.
Yeah, it's Dragonshire. Sometimes you're going to have this, depending on compositions, depending on how teams go. T making good use out of his Calamity. Yeah, Dahaka does miss the tongue, though.
Missed it. T staying alive for the moment, although Hosty and KLM Pro starting to go back in. With the swipe, Airho takes that kill, takes down Li Ming. Simplicity and LFM both on the cusp of getting heroic abilities, but now Draded's in danger. The scatter arrow goes out. Hosty almost got him, but Draded, a seasoned Hanzo player himself, is able to sort of dodge and juke around against that so he doesn't go down.
Oh, that Siege Giant had like 1 health left on the hook he was hoping, because there was a small window. The minions are about to make their way through, so he's trying to thread the needle, and that Siege Giant was like, I got 1 health bar left. Nope.
This might be the place for the DK. LFM has to send a lot of people top to deal with those bruisers. We see Simplicity have Tassadar and Dahaka here, even using the Archon, trying to force swabs off of the point so that they can get the Dragon Knight. They're all set up to do so, but Johanna's holding on into the bottom. Entomb gets used, Airho stuck inside of it now as the Dragon's Arrow from downtown comes out, hoping to get Simplicity's Airho out of danger. It
saved him for the moment, but T trying to confirm the kill. Brushstalker and a shield are going to keep him alive now. King Caffeine, he did go Putrid Bile. Draded so low, does end up falling there. And Hosty coming in for cleanup. That worked out well. I mean, that Dragon Arrow, Hosty, more Hosty this game.
Yeah, this whole series, really. A Li Ming play, and now the Dragon's Arrow, the Hanzo play too. But that was set up nicely with the Putrid Bile as well, and it's cool to see that addition, that change up for King Caffeine, as well as the helping hand, as he was fearing for Airho's life. LFM has been holding on to these points for quite a while, and just barely keeping Simplicity from getting this Dragon Knight.
So far, LFM has held. They find themselves a level down due to the few kills that we've seen Simplicity maintain. Hosty coming in. Of course, the scatter arrow in that area is so difficult.
Zuna says hello, presents himself to the team. Now Stitches is here too, leaving nobody on guard in the mid. Team Cap was a little bit concerned about that, but now seeing everybody, they're going to get onto bottom. Dahaka claims top. And the seesaw of Dragonshire continues.
Dragonshire in a nutshell sometimes, but Zuna finally gets our first DK here. Almost 13. This is potential snowball territory. LFM has a tough defense here if they try and have to get hook onto Figgy, but we've got an Entomb.
Sideways Entomb into an orb. Draded playing his Greymane to perfection as they get those 2 kills. And now Simplicity get 13, they get the Dragon Knight, but they don't have very much left in the engines here. The best thing for them, they've got that Tahaka still up in the top lane doing some work. They'll try to do what they can with this situation with the Dragon Knight, but LFM right when they needed to, getting those 2 kills.
That was pretty much perfect time, and it's like, look, they got a DK, we're in trouble. They're looking to get more here. As Tahaka, he's going to go down, Wave of Force completing the kill there. All of a sudden, LFM 3 kills to 3. Experience caught up. The DK not getting much out of it. Draded just barely inside the wall there.
Being able to get that Entomb from Swabs, I mean, another way we were able to see his Leoric play be fantastic. But with the Dragon's Arrows, the turn in the Archon now, suddenly LFM are on the run away from Simplicity, but they did an amazing job with that whole entire phase. They got so many kills, they stopped the Dragon Knight in its tracks, and now, because of that, still have all of their force up.
It's amazing how that Dragon Arrow sneaks up on people, right? Like, you're just like, oh, here comes the Dragon Arrow from literally all the way across the map.
LFM invade successfully and steal the Giants from Simplicity. They're catching up in this game.
Yeah, they didn't lose much in the way of structures, which is a big benefit from them. I think when they get this down, their focus just needs to be on trying to poke that well down. They're afraid of the flank, though. That well gives you that sustain in and around Shrine.
Airho in the mid. Brutes will catch. He's going to burrow for the moment. As he uses the isolation, the rest of the team starting to come in. Dragon's Arrow will be in one. The helping hand, though, even faster as he gets the time necessary for Stitches to save him. This is a comp that is much different for Simplicity. It is not at all how they played the last Dragonshire game versus Heroes Hearth, and it's not how they've even been really playing before, right? It's a lot more on trying to win this wave clear game, get the rotations in, and it's proving to be a lot more successful for LFM to keep up with that.
It is. The lack of aggression in the composition when you run the Hanzo Tassadar, especially with the Stitches where you're pulling the fight to you instead of hard engaging, is a bit different. So LFM holding in for now. They evened it up with those 3 kills. It's up to them to try and create something as well. They haven't necessarily been the main initiators. That's one way to initiate as they chunk to about half of Zuna's health bar.
Simplicity abandoned getting the bruisers in the bottom in favor of trying to get a fight with the hook. It's the Aware. He's going to get chased down, goes into an Ice Block, still has Twilight Dream, knocked out of it with a brilliant boop from K1 Pro. And a second kill claims the life of Johanna, and Simplicity with those 2 kills. Top still taken by LFM. That will buy some time. LFM have been doing pretty well at slowing down Simplicity from getting these Dragon Knights, but as these respawn timers get longer, it gets harder. It
was really fun the way that, you know, we saw King Caffeine use his Putrid Bile. Zuna got hit, and then he created a wall, basically dared somebody to walk through that wall. So it forced kind of that weird choke point, either around the Shrine or it forced LFM back. So it was a small, and it kind of looked weird at first, but when you look at the larger implications, it looked good. And then K1 Pro, of course, as you said, the boop onto the Twilight Dream might have been able to keep one person alive had he done that, but good awareness overall by Simplicity. Just, look, you lost a little bit in the Tassadar, but then they turned it around instantly by just heads-up veteran-style plays.
Yeah, even if the Aware had gone down there, using Twilight Dream, if people were really grouping around hoping to get that kill on Malfurion, that's a possible place where you can use either that Go for the Throw or Li Ming herself to start getting resets. You soften up so many of those health bars in hopes that even if I go down, we might be able to get some counter kills off of this. And those kinds of counter plays within your own role, those are things that you look for with experts within their role. So that's why I'm just so excited to see K1 Pro pull that off, since he is very new to the supporting role.
Got the boot away. Iron Skin is available. Li Ming trying to return some of the damage, but Figgy in the back. He's going to go down as the Dragon Arrow hits onto multiple people. We've got an isolation as well onto Malfurion, and he finally gets the Twilight Dream out, and they get the kill onto Stitches.
That's exactly what I was talking about. Draded goes in and takes that kill. Now he's trying to get away, though, because Johanna has fallen in a boot. Right in the boot. Takes out Swabs Magoo. 3 kills, but that's what I was talking about with the Twilight Dream, and then Draded able to go in and get that 1 kill. Airho played fantastically that fight too. He stalked in, the hook hit Johanna, she used Iron Skin. Instead of using drag right away from that, patience. He just body blocked instead, body blocked, knew he didn't need to use any of those things, instead turns around, gets the isolation on another target to give them the setup for the next kill, and that's what we're talking about with that Stitches into Haka interplay.
The play is definitely paying off. They got 1 kill there, did LFM, but things trending in favor of Simplicity as they've now got a level and a half, almost 2-level lead here. They will play the 20 game one more time, will Simplicity. Gilly, however, this is the part where we've seen LFM a handful of times, several times in fact, to where they find themselves down. They recognize that they're going to get choked out in terms of experience, in terms of those talent tiers. Will they be willing to pull the trigger? They're looking to move in. They
did it on Dragonshire versus Gale Force Esports, and that was the start of the turnaround for them to end up winning that series. If they're going to light up, they got to light up again and light up soon, as Simplicity are quickly approaching that level 20. LFM are going to get mercenary camps in the bottom lane in hopes of, if nothing else, just stalling out that Dragon Knight with Simplicity a little bit longer and let them try to climb back into 20.
I mean, they're looking for a fight, though. Leoric is already moving in. Zuna is out, does have his Archon, so he's got double dimensional shifts. The hook, however, lands onto Draded. Gets pulled in, going to be healed up for the moment. But 20 is here for Simplicity. And LFM just now moving back to lanes. They're going to have a hard time delaying it. I mean, they're going to do everything that they can to delay to get to 20. The good thing for them is their keeps haven't been assaulted, and their keep walls are still pretty healthy. So if they can just play 2-3 minutes down the road, you might give up a keep, but it's not the end of the world.
LFM were looking to see if they could catch Airho in a flank. A 5v1 is still going to be favorable even without 20 to get that, but they didn't get it, and now the rest of Simplicity is here. Dragon's Arrow out. The Contagion catches several of LFM, and as the sound barrier goes down, as Simplicity charges forward, they take out Johanna, swabs into the Wraith Walk now as he gets back out using that reset. Thanks to Royal Focus, he makes it out. Only Johanna dies, but it's enough to push out all of the lanes. Simplicity can head back in hopes of getting the Dragon Knight.
This should be, although Zuna, gotta be careful. His Archon, Infinite Archon, he is ripping through T. Draded trying to go in. The Aware comes out with the Twilight Dream, and Draded trying to take Zuna down. Zuna is so low right now, but somehow surviving.
The shielding, the heals. T comes back in to help out with the assist. It gets the kill. Now looking for more for the resets as he takes down another one. K1 Pro is in danger. Dodging with the wall ride. The cocktail, but with the speed out on a sliver of health, K1 Pro survives.
Wow. LFM somehow, Gilly, always finds a way. I don't know what it is that they have within them, but it is something we should all aspire to have. These comeback mechanics. 6.5 out of 10 is tattooed all over them. They find a way to get back in these games. They get the kills, they'll find themselves 20. They do not give up a keep, and they are still very much in here.
Forget love finds a way. We're talking about LFM finding a way, and they have found their way to 20 and even to stop another Dragon Knight from Simplicity getting the success that Simplicity would like. And that's all about taking advantage of the time that they know Simplicity felt safe. They felt like they had all the control of the map. They could spread out and not be fearful of LFM. And LFM stands strong together. Those two damage dealers working together, Draded to save T, and then T coming back in there too. It was awesome to see.
Yeah, I believe that 5 of their 6 kills or 6 of their 6 kills were all right as Simplicity grabbed the DK.
Exactly.
Like literally the moment they grabbed it. LFM, that's where all of their successes come. So clearly you give up another Dragon Knight so you can win the game, right?
Pro moves right there. Special tactics.
Hard to argue with that logic.
You know what also works sometimes? A good old-fashioned party bush. LFM with that buried alive. If Simplicity had grouped up, gonna be a lot of sad, silent people inside of that. Aware dodges the hook. LFM are grouped up in a prime spot for a Dragon's Arrow. I got a little scared there.
Yeah,
they get the
big
camp.
time. But they're taking away all the control points that Simplicity could possibly have by stealing those camps. There is one that they'll have to respond to in the top. Leoric should be able to take care of that. Plenty of time before the next Shrine phase. So LFM playing on a neutral battleground for at least a little while. They still have a long way to go because they have not taken down a fort. You still have to take down a fort, take down a keep wall, take down a keep. So your road to winning the game is still much longer than Simplicity. So you have to win one team fight, and then you have to win another, and then hope to win from there. Simplicity, one big team fight can win them a game.
For late game Dragon Knights, they start to scale, and LFM hasn't lost any keeps. There's no catapults. Simplicity has had every single Dragon Knight in this entire game, but because they keep losing people right as the Dragon Knights happen, they haven't been able to take out a keep. And now that 2-level lead, that 2-level advantage that they had, it doesn't matter anymore because it's just about stats. It's not about any additional talent tiers. They used those opportunities up, and now LFM, they have lots of chances to try to get back in this because it's Dragonshire, and there's a lot of times when people are separated out, just like the team currently is now.
The timing on the night camp is almost perfect, but it might be a little too soon. If this gets cleared out, generally use the night camp to gain vision control. Dahaka will easily capture the shrine. Had this been picked up a few moments later, this is where LFM would be defending, maybe a little bit further back. Now they can defend directly around the shrine and find themselves in the game. LFM forced that capture by rotating down, although I think Simplicity might have capped about 5 or 10 seconds too soon.
Well, Dahaka can just stay in the top as long as LFM's willing to stay down here in the bottom. They take that top, and then he pushes that hard in, force someone from LFM eventually to go up to that lane, and then stalk down with the Dahaka. LFM brought the fight to the 4-man, which can stay safe, wants to stay safe because they have Stitches instead of taking it to the Dahaka. Unless they can get this fight started, and they're playing with the Johanna, so unless they have that good Entomb maybe to start things off, this is, look how far Erho is up.
This is, it definitely puts you on a timer. And if you're going to respond to that, you have to send your team to the top lane.
They're going.
Yeah, you have to send them to the top lane to recapture
Arrow stalks.
The top shrine.
He stalks, he sees Johanna. Blessed Shield used, making sure that Figgy gets out. Dragon's Arrow after the fact, though. Johanna's been separated from the group and now dragged to Doom as Figgy is going to be brought down using the shielding, using everything. Did not take Indestructible, took Blinded by the Light, which we've been seeing a little bit more. I don't even think Indestructible still would have saved there because you had the Lucio to chase her down. No Johanna now. Simplicity playing that exactly how they should with the Dahaka.
But I don't understand why Figgy stayed as long as he did.
Yeah.
That was the hard part, is that your team had already left. They were already going to reclaim the capture of that top shrine.
Zuna, please.
Buried Alive is the talent pickup, so there is no dimensional shift. Zuna positioning there. Big question mark for me, Gilly.
Well, that gives LFM now 30 seconds once they have Johanna back. But Simplicity still have Dahaka. It's not Apex Predator. Picked Contagion. There's a lot of good Contagion points to use that. But with the Bruiser camp now on the top, that has to be dealt with by Simplicity. Simplicity trying to get a kill before Johanna gets back. A lot of damage. Hoshi just going for it. Going for the kill as Greymane went in. He baited him back in with the natural agility, and it's Simplicity who comes out on top.
He just took so much health that I think he just felt he had to try and trade out there. Instead, it did not trade out, and there's the grab onto Swabs. He's going to go down. He'll be back sooner than not, but another hook is going to land here. The Aware, this might have been the kill shot that they needed. That is an amazing hook by King Caffeine. That could easily help seal this game if they can get themselves a DK, but Swab's trying to have other ideas. Urho just barely able to live as he burrows under. And LFM still fighting back, but 3 members down on LFM.
Yeah, that hook was insane. The Dragon's Arrow was insane. Hostie's play, that whole entire exchange was awesome. It wasn't tunneling claws. He took elongated tongue, so he couldn't tunnel out of there, but the burrow was still enough for Erho to make sure he stayed alive. This time 3 kills. Tassadar is back. 3 kills. Leoric will be back in 7 seconds, and then they'll have Greymane after that, but the stagger death of the Aware, that's going to be problematic for Simplicity for LFM as Simplicity looks to get this late game Dragon Knight.
Yeah, they were a little slow on their rotation to go directly to that. I anticipated them just going directly to capture the shrines, capture the DK, push that bottom lane out, and try and end this game. That lane got opened up. The hook's going to land on a Figgy again. Iron Skin is going to keep him away for the moment. Between T and between Greymane, you have the opportunity to defend here, but we were talking about a 23-minute DK. This is a tough defense for LFM.
It is, but it would have been a lot tougher if someone got lost to a hook, so it's good that they made it back, and Figgy was the one to soak that. Puck as he had the iron skin. Now everyone's back. Aware is here. The Dragon Knight just chunking through that keep. Zuna using the Archon. LFM seeing where they can find somebody. They've brought this Dragon Knight down to about half health. Posty out fairly far, and Tomb was used. Didn't catch anybody now as the Dragon Knight and the Archon moving forward into the core. Twilight Dream, J-How.
Twilight Dream is trying to do something, as is the Blessed Shield, but the DK is ripping through it. We're at 50% and falling. Simplicity trying to close this out. 3-0. Li Ming is down. That is members of LFM falling, as is the core. Simplicity coming out 3-0ing LFM. And